everyone. Today we're going to talk about how you guys can revise CBSE Social Science Civics in just 60 minutes. Trust me, it's possible, guys. My name is Ashpri and today we're going to talk something very interesting about social studies. So let me introduce you to this basic subject before we jump into and talk much and more about civics, of how you're going to study, what are the things that you need to take care of. And by the way, for your information, I have an important announcement to make, which I'll make towards the end of the video. So please stay tuned and let's see what comes next. So talking about, guys, social studies, I know this very subject is like, why did somebody introduce this subject? Why couldn't people, relieve us from the pain? I understand. I've suffered it. So I've gone through all that suffering. So let me tell you, social studies is a subject that does not involve understanding of formulas and theorems. Subjects may be history, may be civics, geography. They require you to know and remember, yes, definitions, dates, short notes, and most feared long answers. Marks can be scored relatively more easily in when it comes to shorter answers, but scoring in lengthy answers does not make sense unless and until you are well aware of all these factual details, or maybe you have a command over writing skills as well, if I talk about. So now whatever I'm going to talk about will make sure that you write logical answers and might help you in scoring better in exams. So coming to the first and foremost important thing before I talk about anything else is, don't make that face. Please don't make that face. Don't try to shoot me with that revolver. Okay, so see, when I talk about just a brief overview, when I talk about subjects, let it be history, may it be civics, that we call political science, or may it be geography. See, a lot can be achieved by getting the details right. So when you're preparing for your exams, just make a separate note of all the dates, all the phrases, all the topic, specific terms, or maybe for that matter, any sort of definition that comes your way. You have to take care that you introduce it the right way. So go over these whenever you feel that you've time. Just try to just try to revise it thoroughly. And most of the time we conventionally follow the same pattern, that is, read the textbook, read the book, read the notebook. But why can't we evolve something that's more creative? For example, let's try to make use of all those sticky notes. Let's try to make use of some flow charts that might add a little sense of creativity, might be involved, and also make it more interesting, so that whenever you have to go back to these topics for memorizing things, you don't have to every time open up your book or scroll through the pages. That won't make sense. So you will find them coming your way, or maybe coming to you more easily in the exam. This way, like making it more creative, would help you, because okay, on that yellow sticky note I wrote that particular date. On that yellow sticky note, on that orange sticky note, I wrote about that, drew the face of that, maybe talk about Treaty of Vienna and wrote something about it. So yes, you can associate Vienna with orange color. And this way it's going to stay with you for long. Next important thing that I need to tell you is, see, when you need to memorize the descriptive answers like events in the history, or maybe various procedures in civics and all the natural processes, when you talk about geography also, you will need to I would say, make a note of all the important terminologies. Now, don't use your paper and pen and just start writing, framing sentences, and doing stuff like that. The only thing you can do is try to make note of important terminologies in order to score better. So, that's the only thing you can do. So, while writing these answers, try to fit in the relevant terms. It's important to have relevant and factual data. It gives you an edge over the others as well. Like whatever the answers most of the people are writing, if you have the factual details that you've got right, automatically it's going to make sense. Third important thing is in social studies, please write down to improve your score. I'm just telling you to improve your score. Please write down all the lengthy answers in points. So this way, not only will you avoid the misery of having, to learn the entire paragraph, more importantly, you can recall them easily while writing in the exam too. So whenever you're making sure, just make sure when you're learning social studies, try to make pointers, small phrases of points that might come across so that you remember the crux. Because as I told you, see, reading the book, reading the notebook, eventually it's going to be the same. And you've written that long answers, the summaries, which, it turns out to be really boring. Sometimes it turns really boring. So the best thing you can do is just make pointers, and that pointers should be relevant enough to provide you with the factual information. Fourth important point is, please do not, especially in social studies, I've seen it a lot of times, please do not fill in the pages unnecessarily. People or you guys usually tend to write irrelevant things or I would say when they're not required, or when you cannot recall the exact answers. Doing this will only add to the mess. That's all I can say. Jot down all the relevant things that strike you, or move on to the things that try to remember, that helps you try to remember better. Like I told you, probably you can make use of the sticky notes or some important fancy notebook, so that there's a touch of, interesting character added to social studies. Now, see, once you've written a very long answer in social studies, try to go through it. So you may not, always have been left with lots of time to revise that over and all. But if, let's say, you're not left with enough time and you're left with a very long answer, the best you can do is just make sure that you use a block diagram. Something like this, a block diagram, or maybe some flow chart that's going to make sense and help you, score well in that exam. That's going to stay with you. Now, talking about civics, we've talked a lot about what you guys need to do and what you guys need not to do. Now, see, in 10th class, you have these chapters in civics, that's political science. The first chapter is power sharing. Second chapter being federalism. Third chapter being democracy and diversity. Fourth is gender, yes, religion and caste. Fifth chapter, you don't have to study, so I'll write it with red pen. That is, oops, the red didn't work. Popular struggles and movements. So you don't have to study this. This is basically for your project work. Then jumping on to chapter number 6, that is important, political parties. Seventh being outcomes of democracy, and eighth being challenges to democracy. So these are the 7 chapters that you have to study 7 chapters. You given list of 8 chapters, but you have to study 7 chapters. See, when I talk about civics or political science, we just open our book, we sit down, we start studying for the heck of appearing in the exam or writing answers in the exam. But did you ever sit down and think of what political science is all about? It's that field that actually examines both in theory and practices of the government, what the government is actually doing. So at times political science, yes, it requires in-depth understanding of numerous topics. For example, it's very important to understand, what are the levels of the government that exist. You have to understand what are the political ideas and theories for that matter. You have to understand what are the different groups that influence the government. So besides all this, it's I would say it's very very important to know what are the different institutions, what are different processes, what are the diplomatic or military strategies that must be employed by the government. Now, talking about this, so that means it's a lot to cover when it comes to political science. No, guys, there's not enough to cover. You don't have to cover the current. But what strategies we follow at Vedantu here is we don't just teach you. I won't just teach you. If I am taking social, I won't just teach you here. I'll try to help figure out, okay, what's going on in the government. And for example, you have this chapter number 6, that's political party. Now, in the year 2019, we have our Lok Sabha elections. I'll try to associate, okay, let's talk about this party. What if this scores enough number of seats here, enough number of seats here, and then do you think it's going to form government or not? So try to analyze the situation on the background, on real life situation. That will help you retain the facts for long. And here at Vedantu, we try to do the same. We try to associate the real life situation with whatever is going on, and that basically helps you retain the facts for long. Now, see, when I basically talk about social studies and especially class 10th, it sounds really boring, like really really boring. But if you analyze the situation, if you really want to score well, I hope if you follow the practice and the teaching thing I'm going to tell you, the secret that I'm going to tell you, trust me, it won't be difficult for you to revise the 7 chapters under just 60 minutes. I understand. Let's have a real talk. Like, I understand, class 10th board exams are those first major exams that you people might be facing, or some of you might be facing, some of you might be facing in the next coming years. So, everybody would be telling you clearing these exams will be the first step in towards helping you achieve some academic records or maybe some career goals. So I know just before the exam, it's a very confused feeling. Well, I would say you guys don't need to be nervous or confused for that matter, because now we're going to analyze the situation, look out for all the loopholes that are there, and then we'll work on it. So, so I would say social studies, yes, is an important subject. It is important because you have to study it just for an year, this board year. And who knows, you guys might get choose to become a doctor, many of you might choose to become an engineer, some of you might go in for this field of CA, and very few I've seen who try to stay connected with this subject, that social studies or for humanities. That's not at all a bad field. So yes, social studies, like, it has different components. In this case, like, you have history, you have civics, you have geography, you have economics. So yes, you can score easily precise answers. Contrary to the popular belief that one cannot score above 90 in social studies, Trust me, students have been able to score 95 plus in this subject. Yes. In this particular subject, scoring a very high percentage of marks is not at all difficult. What is required is the right study strategy that we are just about to discuss. And understanding of the concepts is very important. Then you are good to go. So while preparing, I would say, for your exams, just when you target to score 90 plus, especially in social studies, and revise the entire course many times. It's very, very important that you have crisp, precise notes of everything. So the best you can do is, see, whenever you open up a chapter, maybe you start reading a chapter, there are some, or most of the time, there are few very, very, very important points that you need to take care of. And intentionally or unintentionally, we just underline it there and then, and we forget it, that let it be, it's not going to stay with us for long, we'll come back, we'll study it again. But imagine, once you open the chapter, you go through the contents. Now on every page, let's say we have one page right here, and on the back side, so you just compile the summary of this page, that's back and forth, and just add a sticky note. If you have any important date, just write it there, an important definition, any important thing that's related, just type a sticky note, paste a sticky note at the start of the chapter, so on the start of the page, so that you have compiled information for 2 pages. After few months, you'll realize that that sticky note is gone, and you've compiled the sticky notes for 3 to 4 pages in one page. Now this way, eventually with each month that's going to pass, each passing month, you will be left with just one sticky note. That means you've already cut short the important information. You've already reduced your burden. You've done a brilliant job. And anyway, now I am going to tell you in next 10 minutes that how you guys can make flowcharts apart from this definition, dates, or whatever comes your way. That's very important. Terms. The important thing that you guys can follow is, please try to make flowcharts like I'm just going to discuss. For those who are watching this video for class 10th, this flowchart will make sense. And for those who are not, I've picked up a very easy chapter, and I hope it'll make sense to you also. For example, let's talk about this particular chapter, that's gender, religion, and caste. So imagine this is the heart, and this is the heart of the chapter. Now first I'm going to talk about, I have, you can divide it into important headings. Let's say I'm going to talk first about gender. So like patriarchal system, maybe the stereotyping that is there, just giving a vague idea, so that how you guys can cover the important aspect and answer the question accordingly. So stereotyping, then you can talk about division of labor, and even you can here talk about all the feminist movements. So basically talked a lot about gender. So on that note, let's talk about, let's say, first talk about caste. So I'm going to write about caste here. So what do I need to talk about caste? Let's say we see caste inequalities. We see social discrimination. And also we see political influence. Some sort of dirty politics at times comes into play, where there are kin relations associated, no internal democracy is followed. So everything can be compiled in this particular data, set of data. Now, next I'm going to talk about, I've talked about gender, I've talked about, let's say, caste. Now, somewhere, take a big sheet. So, let's talk about religion. I'm again going to divide it into different sections. For example, in religion, what aspects you need to carry is the Gandhian and humanist views. Like Gandhiji once said, you can't segregate or separate religion from politics, because the best you can do is just take out all the best features or the good characteristics, or values from religion, and just try to inculcate the same in the political domain, in the political practice, that our country says that India is a very secular country. There's freedom of religion. There's freedom of to profess, practice, propagate any religion of your own. So yes. Then again, a separate point on secularism, and finally on communalism. So yes, it leads to communalism, where one people belonging to a particular religion try to superimpose themselves and project that yes, they are more superior to the others right there. So there's a difference. It religion bias often leads to the feeling of communalism. Now let's see, I want to add something else, and I want to say what is the discrimination, various ways in which we can see discrimination. We observe this, like either women are underpaid, unpaid, or maybe low paid jobs they're working for. Then you're going to talk about the sex ratio, all the photo points that I'm giving you. Then all the literacy rate. Then yes, there is gender bias. Then you can talk about domestic violence, I guess. It's a very general topic, so I've picked up the most common points that we come across. Domestic violence, then maybe property, inheritance. See, now you've almost compiled the entire chapter into different sections. Now you've got 4 sections, and anytime if anybody asks you to give information on these, on any of these particular topics, I guess you've got enough information in hand. So guys, I think if you make notes like this, like flowchart, block diagrams, I generally follow this practice. So when we teach at Vedantu, we follow the best practice so that you don't again have to follow the conventional method to learn things. Rather, you go the easy way. So you don't have to sit and cry right before the board exams. Oh God, what is going to happen to me? Now my mom and dad are going to take away my cell phone, not allow me to play PUBG and stuff like that. So imagine you've written your notes like this, you've talked about a chapter, you've covered all the important aspects, maybe related to caste. Just I've not, what I've done, I've not framed the sentences, I've just written the phrases. And I think it makes sense if you write phrases. It's going to take less of space and it's going to look more presentable. But don't try to do this in your exams. You've got sufficient time. Write complete answers and then, conclude them. In addition to big answers when you have. So I guess, there are 7 chapters, and if you make flow charts or compile the information with these mind maps, I think, I think it's going to be easy for you to revise civics under just 60 minutes. 7 chapters, 60 minutes, good to go guys. It's a very 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 good deal. There's some chapters that are very very small and you won't have to devote enough time. So try to make use of pictures like this. Like there's this France that's divided into Dutch speaking people or any other language. Let's say there's a case you study, so it's like you can divide it and then write Dutch or maybe any other area that you want to talk about. See, all this is not going to make any difference on the face of it, but eventually when you start doing this, you'll automatically understand that yes, it is making sense, and this way it helps me to retain the facts for long, because now I don't have to go through those long paragraphs, study them, and then come back and then answer. No, I think this is the best way possible that you can compile your resources, compile the information, or revise it over and over again so that you do not have to spend a lot of time when it comes to the revision. Cool? So, okay, I've just given you a glimpse. I hope it's gonna help you. Now, talking about the big information and the surprise that I wanted to talk you. Yes, let me tell you. So, guys, course. Now, this course, the cost, sorry, the course price for the same. Let me write it with a red pen. The course price for the same is rupees. Oops. 1,49,000. But, but, if you enroll for it right away, like just go enroll for it, do not waste any time, you can avail the lightning price. And let me tell you what is the lightning price. The lightning price is gonna be just rupees 1 lakh and okay, 29,000. I don't think it's a bad deal. Not at all. And the course date is going to start from 8th of April. So what are you waiting for, guys? Just go enroll. We've got the best faculty. We've got the best faculty. We help you face the competition from day one. Why day one? Because if you come back from the school, then put on your bag, then walk all the way to your coaching institute, sit there, try not to concentrate, but still anyway you have to concentrate, and then you come back, complete your homework, nobody's there to help you, and there's wastage of time, energy, fuel, money also. So do you think it's really bad if you sit back at your place and you just have to watch the online videos? You can anyway, anytime, anywhere watch it, and you don't have to create a fuss, be that fussy about the fact that I have to carry the bags. Just the books are just around you. Then how do you face the competition? Because we guys here at Vedantu, we don't cater to a particular area, maybe a particular country. We compete with students across the globe. That means from day one your competition starts, you feel the burden. It's not just very near to the day that eventually you realize, oh god, there's a tough competition I have to face a lot of people. I don't think it's going to help you. So yes, we've got the best faculty for physics. Enroll for this session really quick and get the benefit of lightning offer. So till we meet next, thank you so much for attending the session. Till we meet next, take care, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and most important, please respect your parents. Bye bye, take care.